Liverpool to Portsmouth, yeah, that chorus got the crowd screaming.
Alright, and in this video we're going to explain some basics of wiring a car radio. Something that seems so simple to me, but I see a lot of mistakes in it. So these are the different types of connections you can use. Some of these are and some of them are like, yeah, don't do it. And then you have your better connections, solder, heat shrink, etc. So little advice, if you're working on a Harley, a boat, or anything like that, solder, heat shrink is your only choice. Try to use silver solder. You guys, so your wires can oxidize from the salt water and stuff like that, so you're going to want to use silver solder on that. Okay, so when you're doing a car radio, you're going to pull the factory radio out, and you're going to have a factory plug. It's going to look something like so. And you can go to a car audio store, to Amazon, and you can purchase a harness for your car. So in this case, it's for like about a 2003 to 2005 Ford. And then you will get a harness with your radio. It will look something like so. And what your job to do is to make these two together. This plugs into your radio, this plugs into your vehicle, you're done. I see a lot of people cut the factory harness, and in a lot of vehicles nowadays that can be a major issue because you're dealing with a data system, so, and a LAN bus, and just different data systems. So be careful about that, guys. The do's and don'ts, and the different types of connections I have here. I'm going to go over a few different ones with you guys. Okay. Through my many years, I've tried things. Someone said, "Oh, well, this is better," or "Oh, that's better," and you learn this over the years. So I'm just giving you that information up front of what took me a lot of years to learn. If your installer pulls one of these out, this is a wire nut. You take two wires, you put them together, you twist it on there. No, it's not made for car audio. It never was made for car audio. It never was made for vehicle connections. This is for home wiring. And where I'm an electrician, I do a lot of home wiring. So, in my own buildings. But nonetheless, no. If a guy pulls these out, fire him. He's done on the spot. So then we'll move over to, okay, these are butt connectors. These are commonly used, actually. Not in my shop, but they're commonly used. And it's a barrel connector, and it has a little sheet of metal down in there, and you slide a wire in this side, you slide a wire in this side, and you crimp it on both sides. I don't care for these connections. I know a lot of people use them, but hear me out. Understand why I don't like them. The more connections you make, the more failure points you have. If you have 4 failure points on a butt cap, a crimp cap, so if you make 4 connections with this thing, you have 4 failure points. If you make 4 connections with this thing, you have 8 failure points because there's a wire on each side. So commonly a wire will slip. I know, you've done it for 1,000 years and you would never make that mistake. But for us shops that hire people, we want the connections to be as easy as possible for somebody to pick up and learn until they advance down the stages. And this has just been a plaguing nightmare in my shop because they often fail on this type of connection because it takes 2. So it is what it is. Some shops will use them and they'll do a good job with them. And I'm just, no, not my shop. But it is a valid connection. Okay, this is called a T-tap. So this allows you to take this wire, like so, take another wire, and I push it into the other sleeve, and then I take a pair of pliers, and when I squeeze on it, it pushes that metal down through both, and you see the little blade, and it bites into the wire. Okay. These are commonly used at dealerships, and then once you've got the connection squeezed together, this comes over and covers that from being test formation. My opinions on these, so this has an 8 to 14 gauge range of wire. Well, if I have an installer in the bay and he's doing a, let's say a 16 gauge that's going to be fine. 14 gauge, that's fine. You can make those two together. But let's say it's an 18 gauge wire, or in this case, a 20 gauge wire. And he just thought it was an 18. Well, 2 months down the line, when the remote start stops working and it's back in my bay for free labor, it's because of this connection. So I'm not saying you can't use these connections. I'm just saying I'd fire you if you use them in my shop. There we go. So I hate T-taps. Dealerships need to stop. They need to move and advance to a different type of connection. Butt connectors. These are, look, these get a lot of flack in the automotive industry. And these are one of the best connections out there, actually. And it floors me that they get so much flack when these don't. So the advantage of these is if you're running a shop, you're going to have quick turnaround time using butt connectors. So if you're doing average radio installs, nothing special, just good clean work behind the dash, you twist your wires together like so on the red wire. You slide that sleeve down on there. You'll have, and I've got a few different types of crimpers around here, but you see the back sides of these? I can take that, squeeze that crimper in there, and lock it in. It bends a little metal sleeve inside there that crushes onto the wires. That connection's not got no reason to fail. You've got to really give it a reason to fail. So I've been using those for 20 years, but that's a valid connection, not just because I've been using it. I mean, anybody tell you. So what you see though is somebody will make 30 of those connections, and you'll have this big bundle of wires behind the dash. Clean your shit up. Clean your work up, guys. So when you get it all connected together, like so, come in here with a nice zip tie here, zip tie there, zip tie there, and zip tie there. That's going to make you a nice, solid, clean connection, and people appreciate your work. So, crimp caps, cheap, affordable, does a good job. Doesn't mean someone can't do a bad job with them. So, that's a valid connection. Now, heat shrink and solder, that's where we go next. The probably single best connection for most case scenarios. There are some downsides to solder, and remote starts come to mind in my shop. So whenever you expose the center of a wire, you open it up for oxidation. It oxidizes, starts corroding, and they can actually lose connection over time. So if you're going to solder, solder at the tips of a wire. Don't try to impregnate the middle of a wire. That's the term. Don't try to connect to the middle of a wire. You can try to use silver solder if you do, and then you want to use a typical vinyl tape over top that. I use 3M Templex 1700 adhesive. So the nice thing about this tape, so vinyl is got some good properties about it. When you stretch it, it shrinks back. So when you wrap a nice tight connection, and when you let go, after you've wrapped it a few times, it starts to squeeze on itself. I can demonstrate that with my finger here. And that's the end of the video. I lost my finger for you guys. All right, you'll notice it starts to squeeze my little fat finger, and it's getting tighter and tighter. So that's a good property about vinyl tape. You cover your connection with vinyl tape after you've made it. So another tape that you'll clean up over top that with is commonly called Tessa tape. This is black hole. It's from a Orca who does Focal. So good quality tape. It's a kind of a cloth soft tape used in interior applications only. We do have this, actually, I got some right there. So it comes in interior and exterior applications. So, and this is the brand that most of you know, Tessa. So, the downside, we call this happy tape because it seems like every new installer that gets it thinks if they throw 1,000 feet of this stuff on their install that all of a sudden it's a good install. Not true. Just because you see Tessa tape does not make it a good install. So, I've theorized a lot with you guys. Let's make some connections and kind of go with it and see what we get. All right, we're going to start out, and I'm going to hit you with a few wires on each harness, and I'm going to do them in the different styles so that you can see. And grab my black crimpers, or I'm going to not hear the end of the complaints in the comments that I wasn't fair to barrel connectors. And it doesn't matter because I don't see them. Shitty shit. All right, so that was another match? No, okay. All right, so let's start with the barrel connector. I'm gonna come in. I'm going to make sure it's in that sleeve. Time is money. So we grab the gray wire off this one. If you have too much wire, you cut it. There's a stopping point in the sleeve. Yep, that ain't gonna work, no shit. Grab the old dikes. We all love dikes. All right, so that will slide into the sleeve, like so. You see, this ain't, I never was a fan like of the time frame of these things neither, but I'm sure there's guys out there that can ace me on these ones because it's just not a connection type in my shop. And you're going to squeeze that like so. That's a butt connector. It's a good strong connection, but I have 2 failure points. So if I have a failure, then there's 2 chances I'm going to have a failure on that connection. This side or this side. It just doubles your failure rate. It doubles your failure chance. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Again, respectful guys in the business that use them, just not in my shop, sorry. All right. Then we're going to go with your faithful, cheap but effective crimp cap. Twist the wires together, throw the cap down on there, squeeze, it crimps. Metal barrel inside has been bent and crushed down into the wires. So now you have butt connector versus crimp cap. So, all right. Then we can go with, I don't know, I'll just grab the next connection and see what I think I'm going to do. Here, let's grab a piece of this. When you're going to go with a heat shrink connection, you're going to cut a piece of heat shrink, slide the sleeve down over, like so, dip it into a little bit of flux, come over to your 1,000-year-old soldering staple or soldering iron. I don't know if I'm on camera while I'm doing this, guys, but I'm just doing a quick job for you so you can see it. And we are soldered. Okay, this is called tinned. Sorry, not soldered. I've now tinned the wire. I will do this on both sides. So I'm get my white wire. I'll get my other white wire. Dip it in flux. Make sure everything's nice and round. Come over to my soldering iron. Touch the solder to the copper. Heat it up and voila. Now, both ends are tinned. Don't forget to slide your sleeve on there. Lord knows I've done that a million times. You're going to put these 2 wires together. It's harder to do on camera. And you're going to solder them together. So, for me, and not having, I have it here somewhere, my handyman, I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to lay it down and I'm going to touch those 2 together. I'm going to pull them off there. Voila. Okay. Don't laugh at me, guys, because it actually does make a good connection. Now, this is your soldered connection, okay? I don't know if that's going to focus in and show you. I mean, it is connected very well. I'm going to slide the heat shrink down over it, And this is where 90% of us will pull out a cigarette lighter. In this case, I'm going to pull out a heat gun. We're going to slide that over, 50% on each side, around the heat gun. Fancy way of saying let it heat up. We'll come in and hit that heat shrink. Now, what you should have is a connection that looks similar to that. One of the best connections on the market, heat shrink and solder. Should last a lifetime. Okay, so now you have 3 connection types. All 3 are valid. I don't favor this one. Some of you guys use it. I still love you guys out there. Butt connector, this is 2 choices you're going to see in a shop right there for everyday work. It's going to be a butt connector or this. I'm not going to shun either one. I just know this has double the failure rate because it's got double the connections. If you're on a Harley, on a boat, you want this type of connection every time. Don't accept less from any shop. Okay, so now that I've given you 3 most common types you're going to see in a car audio shop, we're going to do cleanup. And I'm going to clean up a harness that's not even finished so you guys get an idea of what types of cleanups you should see. Vinyl tape typically won't be used in this cleanup unless you're waterproofing a connection. So if you're waterproofing a connection, you can start with, let's say a butt connector in this case. Then you will take vinyl tape across that butt connector and then heat shrink over that. Okay, so that makes that connection waterproof. Okay, so let's start cleanup. Let's say this harness is done, which I'm lying, it's not, but let's say it is. This is where you're typically going to see happy tape, aka Tessa tape, aka black hole.
You good with the drill button?
Yeah, I'm good. And I grab the. I go back and grab the right tape because I grab the exterior. Remember, it's very cloth-like. It's really hard to explain, but you're not typically. I was going to say you're not tearing the tape in a tore. No. So this is it's just a very strong cloth tape. Like it doesn't tear. I call it cloth tape. It's exterior Tessa or exterior black hole tape. This is interior. Black Hole and Tessa being the brands that manufacture it. Tessa being the most common one. And sometimes she's a bitch to start. All right, so don't go all nuts with this stuff, guys. I've seen your videos. I've seen your work. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to start some basic separation of a harness. Let's say that you got, we're going to take black wire, and this is the black and white amplifier ground. Let's say we need it to go somewhere else in the vehicle, and then we need our orange up here to go somewhere else. So you start to look at a harness, and you want to start at the base. Sometimes you use a zip tie to pull that like a real tight connection, but come on guys, so you can do it like this just as quick. Start your base wrap. Okay. Now, there's 2 common installs that I see on this, what I call a candy cane and a full wrap. Candy cane, 50% coverage basically, is they'll come in and they'll start to candy cane it like this. That's good if you need a lot of wires exposed to go out to different areas as you're going further down the harness. That's a good way to do it. I mean, I can't knock it. Not always the way I do it, but I totally understand. Okay, so what you do is you start to pull your wires out as you're going up the line. Okay, and I said my black wire needed to go one area. Then I said my orange wire needed to go to another area. And you see as I'm going up this harness, all of a sudden, we got something that looks pretty decent. So this, you tear it off and take a round circle back onto itself. This is how to properly use Tessa tape. You don't have 1,000 butt connectors on there and tape a big ball around it. Leave them exposed and just go around the parts that, the wire. So that's how you Tessa tape, guys. Gives you a nice, clean, super good finish. So and it still gives me access to my wires out here, so as I need them.